It is less than a month until the 2026 college football season kicks off, and we are in for a huge year with this 2027 rookie class that is set to be a major bounce back in rookie pick value. I've got a 3-round super flex, no tight end premium mock draft here that's going to help you identify the top players to watch heading into the 2027 season, give you an idea of where your rookie pick value currently is for that 2027 class, and also give you an idea of guys that are gaining or losing momentum at this early stage of the 2027 draft process. Let's go ahead. Let's get into it. All right, here we go, folks. Again, a 3-round Superflex mock draft. If you are not familiar with the way that I do mock drafts, it is a combination of my rankings as well as where I think players are going to go. So it's my evaluation plus how I anticipate consensus to go. I am starting here with Arch Manning, the quarterback out of Texas. I understand if you're heading into the season thinking it's just name, it's all hype. I watched the tape, folks. I'm very excited about Arch. I think he's an excellent combination of evident arm talent. He's got really good mobility, and he's got a great mechanical foundation. He improved considerably over the back half of last season. The production metrics show that. Excellent 3.8 touchdown to interception ratio, threw for 275 passing yards per game, 14 rushing touchdowns. That's a huge number when anticipating fantasy production. And year 2 in the Steve Sarkisian offense tends to be when quarterbacks take a step forward. Very good chance that Arch Manning is the 101 in your rookie drafts next year, and very good chance he's the first player selected in the 2027 NFL draft. But Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver at Ohio State, very likely will be close behind here. Jeremiah Smith was an absolute joy to log a scouting report on this summer. We're talking about a dominant boundary threat, reliable hands, elite ball tracking. I try not to overuse the E word, but elite ball tracking ability. He's aggressive to win positioning. 95.6 receiving yards per game last season, 14.3 yards per reception. In his 2-year career for the Buckeyes, he's reached the end zone 27 times with folks at 82% catch rate. 82% catch rate with a player who has an A dot here of 11.2. That's a really nice combination. His yards per route run is 3.43. That is a major number there if you're looking at the analytics side here. Even in a super flex league, Jeremiah Smith will be in the conversation for the 101, and it's absolutely deserved. Folks, as we move through this mock draft here, I want to point out you can head on over to rookiebigboard.com now and see full scouting reports for almost every player that's going to be featured in this video. You see my full fantasy breakdown, my NFL draft breakdown, and you can see where I rank these 2027 guys direct in value to current dynasty players as well as Devy players in the 2028 and 2029 classes. If you're not familiar, the rookiebigboard.com, it's a brand new website, awesome interface, lots of good stuff heading on. The link will be in the episode description. Next up here is Kewan Lacey. And folks, I have to say, Kewan Lacey is the hands down clear running back 1 for me. He is a tier above any other running back at this point in the draft process. We're talking about a high floor runner with great vision, excellent strength, but he pairs that with big play breakaway speed, really awesome rushing production, over 100 rushing yards per game last season, 24 career rushing touchdowns, 3.29 yards per contact per attempt. That's a massive number. He averaged 2.5 runs of 10 plus yards per game with a 41.4% breakaway percentage. I love Kewan Lacey. I'm really not seeing much downside to his game. He's an effective pass catcher as well. I'm always thinking about how does this guy fit into my seasonal projections, right? Once he's actually a rookie. We're looking at a guy who's going to be able to handle a 250 carry workload, 50 targets. I mean, he has top 12 running back potential from the get-go. Next up here is Dante Moore. Moore, of course, flirted with the NFL draft this past season, decides to come back. I watched the tape, folks. I think it was a smart move in terms of his own development to come back. You have evident arm talent. You've got some clear athleticism here, and those are nice keywords for anybody looking for upside in a quarterback prospect. Fires the ball in a rope, can push it downfield. I like his quick release, but it's the decision making, right? Especially under pressure. You saw that really collapse. I want to see him use his legs more because right now, from a fantasy perspective, I can't really project much rushing potential. Again, from a fantasy perspective, he has just 2 career rushing touchdowns. He rushed for just 4 yards per game last season, right? So this is a player, 65% completion rate. That's awesome. A 6.6 big time throw rate to a 3.3% turnover worthy play rate. Like, that's great. There's a lot to like about Dante Moore's profile, but I have to be honest, folks, I don't think he's the locked in quarterback too. I think there's variance here in this profile. Next up is Cam Coleman, the wide receiver out of Texas. It's going to be Coleman's first year with Texas. He started off his career with Auburn and was wicked productive relative to a very poor passing game. When I watched his Auburn tape, I saw a guy who can absolutely win along the boundary at the next level. I think he's a prototypical X receiver here. Really excellent ball tracking ability. I love his vertical athleticism. And for a guy who's 6'3", 210, he can move. I love his boundary acceleration ability. But I keep saying boundary. Cam Coleman can win positioning over the middle of the field. So there is some versatility there. I love his post route. I love his go route. But I think he's really effective working the slant and comeback route. And if you know the way I evaluate wide receivers, you will know that if you can work a good post, a good comeback, and a good slant, that is what I am looking for in terms of a guy who's coming out 6'3", 210. I think this might be a little bit above consensus. I'm a little bit more bullish on Cam Coleman, but his skill set is a perfect match for what I described with Arch Manning's skill set. And I think we are going to love him as a consensus top 5, top 6 rookie pick when it comes time to make those selections next May. All right, next up here at 106 is Jaden Ball, the running back for the Florida Gators. When we're talking about Ball, we're talking about a guy who is 6'1", 231. He is big and he is powerful. I like his ability to win with patience. I think he has good vision. For a guy who ran behind some poor offensive line play the last few years, he doesn't play hero ball, right? He takes what his offensive line gives him. He's got some inside-out versatility. So all of that, I think, gives him a nice floor. He really did get the most out of every touch last year. So now we've got a new scheme. We've got some improvements along the offensive line. I think Ball is really primed to be a big riser. I expect Kejuan Lacey to be a first-round pick. I expect Jaden Ball to be in that conversation, maybe in the 20s, maybe early second round, but I do think we're talking about at least 2 running backs who go off the board, let's say in the top 40 picks at this point in the 2027 NFL draft. I've got my little icon here for risers. I'll also have a little icon for fallers, but let's start here with a riser, Drew Mestemaker. Now, before I get into Mestemaker's profile, I just want to say, I understand why anybody is proceeding with some caution on Drew Mestemaker right now, right? We're talking about production in North Texas. We're talking about a guy who is a 1-year starter, period, not a 1-year college starter, a 1-year starter, period, ever in his playing career. He was not a starter in high school. Of course, we've got to see it at the next level, but if Drew Mestemaker takes another step forward, if his development continues, which is realistic to expect to happen, we are looking at somebody who will be a first-round NFL draft pick. He's 6'4", 211. We are talking about an absolute gunslinger. He rips the ball through the midfield. He's got the best arm strength of any quarterback in the class that I have watched, at least so far. He can hit any spot in the field. There's not a blade of grass that Drew Mestemaker cannot hit. He pairs that with some nice ability to throw on the run. He's got a little bit of that playmaker versatility. So he's got to develop. He's got to take another step. But it's August, folks. We're projecting a little bit. And when I'm projecting, I'm looking for the types of traits that Drew Mestemaker is showing at the quarterback position. Let's see if he can do it in the Big 12. Let's see if he can do it at Oklahoma State. But he's got the same scheme. He's got his running back with him. He's got his play caller with him. He's got his favorite wide receiver with him. There's a lot of reason to believe that Mestemaker is on a clear upward trajectory. Next up here is Lenoris Sellers. And, I think I was a little bit low. By the way, these riser and faller icons, it's relative to the mock draft that I did earlier this summer. And Sellers, I don't know that he's a consensus riser. I think maybe I was a little lower on him than consensus earlier in the summer, but I'm back in on him. I've watched the 2025 tape now. So I've got the full scouting report, summer scouting report for Lenore Sellers over at rookiebigboard.com. And I was a little frustrated in season last year because I wanted him to take that step to be a first round pick. And I didn't see that watching live last year. And I still didn't quite see that this year. But what I did see is legitimate improvement. Like Lenore Sellers improved as a passer and decision maker in particular from 2024 to 2025. And we have to expect for a guy with Sellers' skill set, which I'll get into in a minute here, and who's coming in at 6'3", 240, if he is even good, if he even takes one more step forward this year, he doesn't have to be a finished product. He will be a first-round NFL draft pick because he's 6'3", 240, and he is a dynamic dual-threat quarterback. We are talking about high-end athleticism and high-end arm talent, all right? So we are talking about a guy who has a rocket arm. He throws an excellent deep ball. I mean, we've seen examples of him leading guys 50 yards downfield. Great velocity through the midfield. And you watch, there's some good examples of him layering the ball over the middle of the field through the midfield last year. But as a rusher, he's fluid, he's instinctual, he's got excellent vision. We're talking about legitimate acceleration, a speedy runner, but he's also athletic. Like, this man can juke a guy out. He's not afraid to hit the spin move here. Excellent body control when rushing and really good escapability. So there's a lot to like about Lenore Sellers. We want to see some of those passing stats improve. Just 62% completion, just 207 yards per game, just 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. Those numbers we want to see go up. But if you look at some of the advanced numbers, like big time throw rate, 4.6%, turnover worthy play rate, 4.2%, those actually suggest that Sellers is outplaying his offense. So we've got a new scheme, veer and shoot-esque type style off the Bryles tree here for South Carolina this year. It should be more QB friendly. And hopefully Lenore Sellers has more space to work in both with his arm and his legs. Continuing on here, we have tight end Jamari Johnson out of Oregon. I think he's the next guy up. I liked his production relative to the fact that he was the tight end 2 last year at Oregon. He's athletic. He's versatile. He's a move tight end. He can make a real impact as a pass catcher, 6'5", 257. In particular, I like his ability to win positioning over the middle of the field. He wins in contested catch situations, and he's fluid. So I think that we have a little bit of lack of experience, a little bit of lack of production. But if I'm looking for a tight end to project into the first round, and there's always a tight end that goes in late first round, even in a non-tight end premium, I'm looking at Jamari Johnson and one other tight end. And we'll get to that second one here in a little bit. But first, we got to get to Isaac Brown. I'm planting my flag on Isaac Brown. He is electric, the running back out of Louisville here, 5'9", 190. His profile screams big play threat, game-changing acceleration, game-changing breakaway speed. But he's not just speed. The vision is there. He sees space. He hits space. He's decisive. He sees open gaps. He's able to hit cutback lanes with success. And if you consider the efficiency in his production profile, 90 yards per game, 7.2 rushing yards per carry. Folks, 7.2 rushing yards per carry in the Louisville offense. 11 rushing touchdowns over his first 2 seasons. 5.33 yards of contact after per attempt here. 2.53 runs of 10 plus per game, 63% breakaway score percentage. I mean, that's really impressive. He was beat up with injuries last year. That's why you're not hearing about him more. But I'm telling you, folks, he is going to be a riser. 5'9", 190. So we're going to have that undersized argument here. But I think he's going to be living in this top 50 conversation. Folks, as I go through this mock draft, please do me a huge favor. If you learn even one new thing about this 2027 class, give the video a like, and I would love to answer your questions in the chat. So drop those questions about anybody I talk about, or maybe somebody I snub, because believe it or not, I'm going to make 36 picks, and I know the ones at the end are going to be the toughest because there will be good players that I have to leave out of the draft. Continuing on here, let's go Nick Marsh, the wide receiver out of Indiana. So he is transferring over from Michigan State. I want to point out, I want to emphasize here, right now I like Nick Marsh. I think consensus is higher on Nick Marsh. I think that he's still a little bit raw, but I think you could argue maybe that's the Michigan State offense. I think the Indiana offense is going to bring out the best in him. I think he's going to end up a first-round pick. I don't know that I would use a first-round pick on him today if my rookie draft was happening for 2027 today, but I do think that he is going to be able to come into his full profile. So he's 6'3", 213. I think he's a sharp route runner, and that's really nice when you consider pairing that with a large frame. That equals some really nice ceiling. Like, he could play X, he could play flanker. You can move him around in an offense at the next level. There's versatility here. When I look at his ability to win, I like his ability to consistently separate through his routes, both in the short field and the midfield. I love his slant route. I think he works a nice dig, especially like he runs a good dig, but a nice deep out as well. I think he's cornered his post routes are his best. I mean, you can see him absolutely shake guys through his routes, especially if you start working with some combination routes. Flip on the tape here, watch the Michigan game. You know, he absolutely breaks the defender on a sluggo route. Like, he is effective with his footwork. He's able to separate. For me, the big question mark for Nick Marsh is his pass catching. You will see mental drops on his tape last year. Is that him being frustrated playing in the Michigan State offense? I certainly could understand that. I do think this Curt Cignetti Indiana scheme is going to really highlight his big playability. It's going to feed him. He wins at the catch point. That was something we saw Elijah Surratt do well last year. I think Marsh steps into that Surratt role this year. On to 112 here. It's Amon Hardy. Now, I want to point out here, you know, I've got him as a faller. He was closer to, I think he was 105 in my mock draft earlier this summer. Part of this is certainly the injury. We can't look past that. If you're not familiar, Amon Hardy was involved in a shooting, innocent bystander from as far as we know, but he was at a concert. He gets shot through the leg. The expectation is that he will recover and play football at some point this season. We don't know if he's going to be 100% at any point this season. He also, I think, realistically could be playing part of this season and then want to come back for one more and finish strong. That factors into this ranking as well. But I have to tell you, it's not just the injury here. When I watched his tape, there were things that I did like about his tape. I thought that he was quick to the edge. I thought he accelerated well off the snap. I thought he had some nice, good long speed. Really sharp footwork. I like his footwork. I love his ability to hit cutback lanes. I think he's got some good lateral agility for a guy coming in 5'10", 206. But what I will tell you is I struggled with his play strength. I did not think that he won leverage. I didn't think he wanted the point of contact very often. You'll see him get stonewalled, especially in the Texas A&M tape. If you watched that last year, you'll see him really get stonewalled by those front seven defenders. I don't love his contact balance. I think it's good. It's not great. But in particular, I'm worried about his pass catching profile there. Just not a lot of pass catching, a half a reception per game last season, 0 receiving touchdowns. You're looking at a guy who could potentially be limited for fantasy football projection. And again, at the end of the day, that's what I'm thinking about, folks. I'm thinking about how these guys provide actual fantasy football points for you. So let's get into round 2 here. And as we advance in each round, we're going to move a little bit quicker through it. Ryan Coleman Williams, wide receiver out of Alabama. Twitchy athlete, sharp footwork, definitely fast. Speed is a big check mark here. I project him as a flanker receiver, potentially even moving inside to the slot. He's 6'0", 182. So is he really 5'10 and a half, 180? That's absolutely possible, right? We know how these listings work. I love the footwork. I think there is versatility, elusiveness after the catch. When I was watching the way he was used in the offense last year, it was a little bit too yak dependent, a little bit too short stuff. At times, really wanting him to win after the catch. Was that the offense? Was that the quarterback play? I'm not sure. But the biggest concern for Ryan Coleman Williams over his first 2 seasons, 12.7% drop rate. That is atrocious. He's a 5-star athlete. He's going to be in the first round conversation. But if he doesn't rein in the hands this season, then he is going to be fully off my board. Well, he's still going to be on the board. I just want to clarify. He's going to be in the rankings. I'm just not going to draft him. All right, Charlie Becker is up next. I definitely have him as a riser. I watched his tape here. So it was fun to watch Nick Marsh tape last year and compare that to how Charlie Becker played out. Becker, if you're not familiar, he really only came on usage-wise towards the end of last season. So the production metrics aren't necessarily there. But he's 6'4", 207, and we're talking about a guy who is a contested catch monster. Large frame. He pairs that with excellent ball tracking ability, some nice verticality, some not just his frame, but he's able to go up and get the ball as well. Awesome high point ability. I don't know that I've seen, better high point ability in particular in the last 2 or 3 draft classes with Charlie Becker here. It's really exciting watching his tape. He's got good hands. He wins in traffic over the middle of the field. Listen, he's not going to smash Indianapolis. We've got to get that in our head right now. He's not going to nail the combine. He's not going to run the fastest 40. He's not going to run the best 3-cone drill. You have to have that baked in, but it's absolutely within the realm of possibilities here that Charlie Becker has a higher ADP than Nick Marsh when it actually comes to rookie draft season next May. Next up here is Trey Green. Folks, I said I love the comments. I love to hear from you. I got some feedback here that I snubbed Trey Green in my first mock draft. And I'm going to be honest with you, I did. I did snub him a little bit here. Excellent production profile for Trey Green. Athletic tight end. He is a red zone threat. I love his hands. So I think all of that absolutely working in his favor. I've got him at 203 here. If you swap Jamari Johnson and Trey Green in your own mock draft, if you're going through this exercise, I think that's absolutely justified. That's fair play. Next up here is Darian Mensah. I want to like Darian Mensah more than I did watching his tape and building his summer scouting profile. What I like about Darian Mensah, accurate passer. He plays very well in the pocket, but he also plays very well off script. I see accuracy at all 3 levels of the field. And I see some good fluidity, some good athleticism when he moves outside of the pocket. I think we're talking about limited arm talent, right? The arm strength is not necessarily there. More critical, and where I really feel like he needs to improve, is touch. He needs to be able to adjust velocity better, put better touch on the ball, lead his receivers better in that way. Here's what I'm excited about. You have a clear track record of Miami putting quarterbacks into their system, improving their draft stock, right? You've got Cam Ward, who is a round 3 projection before he decides to go to Miami. He ends up the first overall draft pick. Last year, you have Carson Beck coming in. It probably run out of town in Athens, right? Probably a late day 3 draft pick. A season in the Miami scheme, he goes round 3. Darian Mensah, absolutely more talented than Carson Beck. Darian Mensah, potentially more talented than Cam Ward at the end of the day. So I don't know that we're talking about first overall draft pick, but we are talking about a guy who can be in the top 50 conversation, potentially the first round conversation. And if you are doing math at home, yes, Manning, Moore, Nestemaker, Sellers, Darian Mensah, that is 5 quarterbacks. I'm not being hyperbolic. You heard me last year. I was more hesitant on the quarterbacks. We could legitimately have at least 5 guys come off the board here in the first round of the NFL draft. That's some really prime draft capital, and we're not done talking about good quarterbacks in this class. LJ Martin, this is definitely above consensus. I love LJ Martin. I was planting my flag on him back in November of last year. I thought he was going to come out in this 2026 class. He didn't. So I'm just running it back. I'm running it back on my flag plant for him. Aggressive, well-rounded, 3-down back potential, awesome play strength, fantastic contact balance, 3.75 yards per contact after attempt. Yards per attempt after contact. I keep saying that backwards. I understand that. I like his vision. I love him working between the tackle box. Don't love him so much outside, but A gap, B gap, inside the tackle box. He's got very good vision. He's decisive. He hits the hole. He hits the hole hard. He does not get caught dancing behind the line of scrimmage. And he's got reliable hands. For a guy who's 6'2", 220, he is an excellent pass catcher. He catches the ball well in stride. He's got great catch and turn ability. He's under the radar because he's at BYU, but he averaged 100 rushing yards per game last year. 5.5 rushing yards per attempt, 12 rushing touchdowns, a 2.76 runs of 10 plus yards per game. That's massive for a guy who's 220 pounds. I love LJ Martin. I'm also wicked high on Justice Haynes. And again, folks, These mock drafts are meant to be a combination of my feelings on a player and where consensus is. So I dropped Justice Haynes. I had him a late first round in my first mock draft. I thought over the summer folks would catch on, build the momentum. So although I've got the snowflake, the cold emoji here for Justice Haynes, that's more reflective of consensus. I'm still in on Justice Haynes. I think he's a very well-rounded runner. I think he hits the ground with excellent vision. I think he has game-changing long speed. Excellent pass catcher. I think he's one of the best pass catcher in this class. He's a legitimate route runner. He wins after the catch. I understand his production profile. It lacks some volume if you're just looking at the box score. But last season, he did average 122 rushing yards per game. I think we'd be talking about Justice Haynes in this conversation with Jaden Baugh, Isaac Brown, Ahmad Hardy, if he had finished last season healthy, right? He probably would be in the NFL right now if he finished last season healthy. And I think he would have been a round 2 draft pick. I absolutely believe that. I have no problem saying that with my chest. I think he's flying under the radar. We're going to get to see him at Georgia Tech this year. He transferred closer to home after playing at Michigan, Alabama before that. I think he's going to rush for over 1,200 yards. I think he's going to find the end zone 12, 15 times this year. He is going to be an absolute staple of the week in, week out conversation. All right, continuing on here, Trinidad Chambliss, quarterback out of Ole Miss. Big fan of Trinidad Chambliss. I didn't expect to be. I liked his tape a lot more than I thought I was going to. He's a surprisingly polished passer for me, especially given his lack of starting experience at the FBS level. Remember, he got thrown in, week 3 last year. He wasn't even supposed to be the starter after only playing at FCS Ferris State before that. So I think you've got a guy who pairs really nice playmaker ability, that athleticism, with a solid fantasy football floor. Good production, excellent production, over 300 yards per game, 6.3 to 1 touchdown interception ratio, ridiculous. 5.7% big time throw rate. I think you've got some really nice velocity. I love his touch on the ball. I think he does that very well. He's accurate in the short midfield. He's accurate outside the hash marks as well. Accurate over the middle of the field. Here's the thing. He's listed 6'1", 200. Real good chance he's 5'10", 190, right? So his size is going to be a consistent conversation, but I do think he has day 2 potential. Nate Frazier, man, a lot of folks are off Nate Frazier. They're over him because the production profile isn't quite there. Well, he passes the eye test. I got to tell you, he's a day 2 guy for me. Absolutely on the eye test. He was somebody I was at the FF Expo a couple weeks back, and I had multiple people talking to me about Nate Frazier. So I know people are thinking about him. They're asking questions about him. For me, I see his explosive play style. I think he's a powerful runner. You watch him play, Mississippi State game last year, other action against the SEC, and he absolutely sheds defenders between the tackles. I mean, they've really got to bring him down. That 5'10" height with the 210 weight, I love that frame because you can really leverage your lower body. So really nice balance there, really strong core. And he absolutely attacks the point of contact. He's a short yardage guy. He can absolutely win in those situations. And he really grinds out yards, even when clear gaps aren't provided for him. So I think that there's some really nice upside with Nate Frazier. I know I'm going to get knocked on this. Julian saying, I watched the film. I'm not there. I know he had Heisman, finalist level production. That's great. It's a great scheme. I think he's a high floor game manager. I don't say that as a knock. There's nothing wrong with being a game manager. Those guys can translate to the NFL, but they don't always translate for high-end fantasy production. Remember, folks, we are looking for fantasy football points. I know that sounds simple, but it's important to go back to that point consistently. I don't love his arm strength. I think it's capped from what we were able to see. Quite frankly, I did not love his accuracy. I know you look at 76.8% completion rate, but accuracy is not just completion rate, right? I didn't see good anticipation. I thought he really, really struggled with placement outside the hash marks, which is an important thing to look at, and really struggled with accuracy into the deep field. Solid processing, solid mechanics. The athleticism isn't really there. I don't get the upside when I watch Julian Sayin. And so when I'm looking at comparing him to a guy like Drew Messemaker, Lenoris Sellers, Darian Mensah, those are players that I just like more. I just like them more at this point in the process. Hollywood Smothers, I'm a fan of Hollywood Smothers. I think he's a well-rounded runner. I think he's an underrated pass catcher. I think he's got significant pass catching upside. I love his patience. He's not, he takes his time off the snap, but then when he sees a gap, he shoots the gap. And he'll shoot that gap with good acceleration, He flips a really nice second gear, and I think he's got reliable hands. Really nice ability to turn upfield, catch the ball in stride, and win in traffic. I mean, he was really productive last year for NC State. He's going to split this backfield at Texas this year with Raleek Brown, who we'll get to a little bit later. But at this point in time, Hollywood Smothers is the Texas running back who I like a bit more. I'm in on Deuce Robinson. I am in. You know, I understand these types of players. There's a little bit of risk in planting your flag. He's 6'6", 230, and I think that he is a really fantastic athlete with some really nice hands when you consider the size he's playing with. Excellent ball tracking ability. He wins above the rim with some really nice vertical athleticism. He's got great mental concentration when he plays in tight coverage. When you consider his acceleration, footwork, and fluidity relative to his size, I mean, that is upside, right? That's what we're looking for. Florida State offense, terrible last year, and he still averaged 90 receiving yards per game. Folks, I can't emphasize enough, and I'm sorry to Florida State fans, but maybe you'd agree with me. 90 receiving yards per game with Tommy Castellanos, like that is so fantastic. 19.3 yards per reception for Deuce Robinson last season. That's fantastic. 3.03 yards per route run, an 8 out of 17. So many green flags across the board for a guy who's just not being talked about all that much. And I dropped CJ Carr here as well. I had him in the late first round in my first mock draft. After watching his tape relative to the rest of the class here, the guys who I've already talked about, I just don't see CJ Carr coming out in this 2027 draft. And that's what I'm reflecting here, right? He needed to be in the video. I needed to talk about him because it would have looked like an omission. I think he's an effective distributor. I think he's got strong mechanics. I think he's got good processing ability. I think he's got solid accuracy for a first-year starter. I don't see game-changing athleticism. And I really didn't see the level of processing that I want to see. Notre Dame did not put a ton on him last season. You would understand that. Absolutely. They sent 2 running backs to the NFL in the first round of the draft. You're going to take it easy on your first-year starter. But I think CJ Carr will get into the first-round NFL draft conversation. I just think that's 2 years away. So that's why I've got him here at 212. Now, as we move into the third round here, these are guys who, you know, I want to give shout outs to. I've watched their tape. I like them. I just think they're worth being on the radar here, starting with Reed Harris, wide receiver at Arizona State. Twitchy guy, fluid. I loved watching him at Boston College last season. I think he's got great hands. I like him best at Arizona State. We will talk about his teammate here in a moment. Mario Craver, slot receiver, twitchy athleticism, nice hands, really nice ability to catch the ball in stride, continue upfield, a reliable target over the middle of the field. I expect him to be the top target in the Texas A&M offense this season, but not the only target worth paying attention to. Next up here is Ian Strong. Was at Rutgers last year, transfers to Cal. I did like Strong's tape when I was watching that. You know, you see a player who is really a great possession receiver for a guy who's 6'4", 210. I think he can be impactful as like a wide receiver 3 on an NFL offense. It's not exactly what you want to hear for fantasy purposes, but he wins in contested catch situations. He's got strong mental concentration, not going to crush the 40, not going to be wicked athletic in that testing, not going to do a ton after the catch. But if you're talking about somebody who can win through his routes, somebody who can win positioning, and somebody who can catch the ball, I think Strong is going to be that guy. Profiles to me is like a round 3 NFL draft guy and probably a round 3 rookie draft pick, but somebody who I will be looking at. Jordan Marshall, put him in the same category here as Justice Haynes. He fell in my board because folks are not catching on from consensus, but I am still in on Jordan Marshall. 5'11", 216, dependable high floor rusher. Great vision working inside. He's got the power to scrap out yards against Big Ten defenders. He runs with good contact balance. He runs with good burst. I do understand why there may be hesitation on Jordan Marshall. Not the most athletic, not the most elusive, not the fastest guy, right? That could mean day 3 draft capital. He could be a round 4 guy. But if Marshall is drafted into a position where he is 150, 200 touches as a rookie, which is absolutely possible. We've seen that, right? For guys that go round 4, round 5, then he's going to be somebody who is going to be a smash target for me in this range, right? When I'm talking about these types of guys, think of Woody Marks. I was really high on Woody Marks. He did get he didn't get the high-end draft capital he wanted, but he landed in a good situation. I drafted him a ton. That's absolutely paid off for me and everybody who tailed in that advice. A lot of smart folks here watching. Subscribe to Rookie Big Board here on YouTube, but also checking out, again, folks, all those resources over at rookiebigboard.com. If you've made it to 305 in a mock draft in August, you are going to love the rookie scouting reports, rookie rankings, dynasty rankings, Devy rankings. We have CFF rankings up there as well. And we just dropped our brand new trade analyzer tool as well. Lots of good stuff over there. Link, again, is in the episode description. Raleek Brown, twitchy, athletic, good pass catcher. I don't love his vision. I think he's indecisive, gets caught behind the line of scrimmage too much last year at Arizona State. He's now with Texas this year. Maybe that'll clear up a little bit. And I just did not see the play strength. So I think he's going to be limited. Again, Hollywood Smothers is the guy who I think I'm going to come out a lot more excited about in this Texas offense. Isaiah Satagna, had to throw Isaiah Satagna in there. Awesome production last year. I like his ability to win over the middle of the field. I think he's got good hands. He pairs production with tape. Somebody who I don't think is on a lot of radar, so I wanted to get him thrown in there. What you're going to see, folks, here in the third round, we want to pay attention to trends as well. The third round is where I think a lot of these wide receivers come through. Next year's class, to me, at this point, is going to be led by quarterback, quickly followed up by running back, and I think wide receiver is going to be relatively a little bit weaker than those other two positions. Tight end, it always takes some time to figure out exactly where the position of the strength of the tight end position is going to stand out. But think quarterback, running back early, then think running back in round 2, wide receiver in round 3, at least again, as it's shaking up here in August. Let's talk about another wide receiver, and that's Nick Harbor out of South Carolina. Listen, if you are a Nick Harbor skeptic, I get it, but a lot of folks are in on him. The NFL draft community is absolutely still paying attention to him. I mentioned earlier with Lenore Sellers, they're switching up their scheme. Bryles Tree, veer and shoot style offense, right? Nick Harbor, his athleticism, his ability to win in space, this is the scheme. If it's going to come together for this former 5-star athlete who has shown really awesome flashes of explosiveness and athleticism, if it's going to come together, it has to be this year. And if it comes together, he'll probably be going higher than 307. I'm going to be honest with you. I refuse to give up on Mekhi Hughes. The Oregon situation was weird. I understand that. But over 2,500 rushing yards in his first 2 seasons at Tulane. Now he's at Houston, reunited with Willie Fritz, who he had that great first season with, again, at Tulane. He's going to be playing up against Big 12 competition. He's probably still rushing for over 1,000 yards. The production's going to be there. I think he's going to show off his power, his lateral agility, his nice footwork, all of that against Big 12 competition. Maybe he's not a day 2 draft pick projection anymore, but even if he's a round 4 running back, that's somebody who we're going to want to be paying attention to. Jaden Mayava, this is a guy who's getting a lot of hype. I did log a summer scouting report for Jaden Mayava, and I just wasn't really that impressed. 6'4", 230, so he's got a big frame. That's always going to keep him on the NFL draft radar. But I think he's really limited in terms of athleticism. I understand if you look at, he's got 13 rushing touchdowns. I understand he's on the move, but he doesn't have the type of rushing ability that's going to translate, right, to a fantasy football projection sheet, which we're always chasing, right? So, again, you've got the big frame. You've got his ability to execute a well-designed offense. There's certainly arm strength there, but it's a lot of good. It's solid accuracy. It's solid mobility, right? It's solid mechanical foundation. It's solid footwork, right? It's solid pocket presence. It's that I don't see the upside. I know there's arm strength there. I don't see the ceiling here, but I know he's on the radar, so I wanted to make sure he was still in the mock draft. Amarian Miller, he's going to be playing opposite of Reed Harris. There's definitely folks who like Miller a bit more. I think he's a bit more twitchy, a bit more on the athletic side, definitely quicker. And so it'll be interesting to see how these two guys are utilized in this offense with quarterback Cutter Boley, who's not exactly the pinnacle of quarterback play yet. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll develop. I mean, certainly wouldn't put it past Kenny Dillingham. Josh Hoover, Indiana. I had to keep Josh Hoover on this list. If you go back and look at his production, his ability to be what I'd call like a game manager plus for his first 3 seasons at TCU, I did think that he did a lot with what he was given there. I think he could be an effective distributor. He's got solid arm strength. I think he's got underrated mobility. And if you consider, right, what Kurt Cinetti has done at Indiana, he 2 years ago, everyone wants to think Fernando Mendoza, which is great. He came over from Cal. He lands in the Cignetti offense. He gets to be the first overall draft pick. It all clicked. Mendoza, awesome prospect. But even go back the year before, Curtis Rourke, right? Curtis Rourke transfers from Ohio, where he is absolutely not on the NFL draft radar. And he goes round 6 to the 49ers, despite the fact that he had a major knee injury still while he was drafted. So I say all this to say, Hoover, he's not quite where we had Mendoza when he transferred in terms of talent, but he's certainly higher than Curtis Rourke. And so I think Hoover could be in this round 3, round 4 conversation, assuming that he's able to put together the flashes that we've seen at TCU in the Kirk Cinetti offense that highlights and develops and makes the best out of these players. Now, folks who watch all my mock drafts, first and foremost, I really appreciate you. Second off, you'll know I try to save the last pick for somebody who I just want to give a shout out to. Usually somebody who I haven't talked about a ton, but I watched the tape here on Isaiah Horton, and I was intrigued. Not a smash guy right now. Not somebody who's going to be guaranteed to be even a third round consensus pick, but he could be, a top 15 consensus pick. I mean, the upside is there. 6'4", 208, and he's fast. He's got good acceleration. He's got good quickness. I love his redirection ability for somebody of his size. I think he's got solid hands. I like his ability to continue upfield after the catch. Horton wins in the deep field. That's definitely a trend when you watch his tape. He's transferring over from Alabama, where he had solid production. He was at Miami the year before with solid production. Now he's at Texas A&M. I'm curious to see Marcel Reed, deep ball, Isaiah Horton. I don't know how exactly that's going to pair up with Mario Craver there too. So maybe the production never quite gets there with Isaiah Horton, but I'm telling you, the flashes of athleticism, pass catching ability, upside here with Isaiah Horton, it's absolutely enough to keep me intrigued. So there you have it, folks. That is a 3-round Superflex, no tight end premium, PPR rookie mock draft here for the 2027 class. Again, if you enjoy this video, if you enjoy this content, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube. We have a whole lot more coming your way over the course of the season. And then, of course, leading up through the 2027 NFL draft cycle. And again, folks, if you want to see these rookie profiles, if you want to see my rookie Devy dynasty rankings, college fantasy football, full scouting report, full articles breaking down these players, head on over to rookiebigboard.com. Get ahead of your league mates, and we're going to be back real soon with some more championship winning fantasy football insight.